Right. Good evening. Good evening. Very much for joining us today. It's a lovely Thursday evening. Usually on Wednesdays we have or Nigerian elders, speak to us, and some of them are no longer with us on Earth, this planet, but their words are still here, their books are still here, and some of their speeches are still here with us. So we take advantage of the opportunity to listen to them and learn from them. We do that once a week. Last week we listened to Chief Samuel Aduke Akintola, and we had a great time as he spoke on the elections of 1964, 1965, and the place of the Igbos and how Yoruba should handle the election itself. Today we'll be listening to another elder. This time is Chief Bola, the Cicero of Esauke. And I'll tell you all about him in a bit, but I just wanted to know what we're getting into today. You're going to be listening to one of the brightest minds that Yoruba nation and Nigeria ever produced, and it's amazing that we have people like that in our own history as a people. So we'll be listening to him, but I'll be in a bit. First, let me welcome everybody across all platforms, whether you're on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Twitch. Thank you very much for being here. And I want to thank people on TikTok for liking the live, around 13.6k likes right now. Thank you very much for keeping the likes going. Please don't stop. Thank you very, very much. If you're on YouTube, please like and share. Let's share with folks that, you think would be interested in sessions like this. If you're on Facebook, please like and share as well. For those of us on X, please like and repost. Thank you very, very much. I see what you're writing at Demola. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. Let's just try and stay on topic, okay? But I might as well tell you right now that they never left. What happened is a political conversation, and we'll have that, very soon. Okay. So today we will be listening to Chief Bolage. I just read some things about him, and then we'll get into the conversation in a bit. So Chief Jeremiah Obafemi Oluokere Bolage, famously known as the Cicero of Esauke, was a titan of Nigerian politics, a brilliant orator, and a legal heavyweight. He was a man who blended intellectual sophistication with a deep-rooted commitment to the Yoruba people and the Nigerian state. Born in 1930 in Kaduna, Ige was a polyglot of the soil, growing up in the north but remaining fiercely proud of his Ijesha roots. His academic journey was nothing short of stellar. He attended the prestigious Ibadan Grammar School. He studied classics at the University of Ibadan, then University College Ibadan, where he developed the oratorical skills and love for Latin that earned him his Cicero nickname. He later moved to London, earning his LLB from University College London and being called to the bar at the Inner Temple in 1961. Bolage wasn't just a follower of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he was one of the Awoist inner circle. He embraced Awolowo's philosophy of democratic socialism and life more abundant. Ige was instrumental in the Action Group and later became a founding member of the Unity Party of Nigeria. Like his mentor, Ige believed in free education, free healthcare, and integrated rural development. He was often seen as the intellectual bridge between the old guard of Awoist and the younger progressive generation. In 1979, he was elected the first executive governor of Old Oyo State. His tenure is still remembered for education, for massive expansion of secondary schools, and the establishment of the Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Lautech. He's also remembered for infrastructure, extensive road networks connecting rural farming communities to urban centers. Despite being an opposition figure for much of his life, he joined President Olusegun Obasanjo's cabinet in 1999 in the spirit of unity. Minister of Power and Steel, he famously promised to turn stone into bread regarding the power sector, a task that proved Herculean even for him. He also served as the nation's top lawyer, as Attorney General of the Federation, until his untimely death. Beyond politics, Ige was a legal giant. He was a senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, and a member of the UN International Law Commission. He used his legal mind to fight for human rights and democracy, particularly during the dark days of military rule under General Sani Abacha, where he was a prominent leader in NADECO. Chief Bola was assassinated in his home in Ibadan on December 23, 2001. His death remains one of Nigeria's most high-profile unsolved mysteries. It was a massive blow to the nation, as he was seen as a rare breed of politician who prioritized intellectual discourse over stomach infrastructure. He was a man who spoke truth to power, often with a mischievous smile and a Latin proverb at the ready. That's a quote from one of those who liked him. Thank you very much for listening to that. I'm going to tell you something about what we're about to hear. That's his speech itself. And what we're about to listen to, right? He spoke on, by the way, if you're on YouTube, you notice the topic is Chief Bola speaks on the Yoruba place in Nigeria. We don't have so much characters on TikTok, but if on YouTube, you'll see it. Chief Bola speaks on the Yoruba place in Nigeria. So in this speech you're about to listen to, he said that if Nigeria is a giant of Africa, then the Yoruba will be its flagship nationality. He believes the Yoruba have a historical responsibility to lead Africa in culture, science, and technology. He spoke a lot about, well, you're going to hear him speak a lot about many things, including preserving the Yoruba language and culture, education and infrastructure, and political philosophy and things like that. The reason I'm playing this is because, by the way, this particular speech was delivered in the diaspora. I was talking to Yoruba people in diaspora, but it's something that we all can relate to today. All right. Having said that, I'd like you to just to know more about him. It was a fantastic leader. He was the first governor, like I said earlier, was the first governor of Oyo State, and is there with us. And not only was he an ardent follower of our, he actually carried that philosophy so much so that people called him Arole Awolowo. I think you're going to hear that in this video you're about to listen to. Okay. All right. So, I mean, we're going to get into it right now, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy yourselves. Please power tap and like the live while you listen, whether you're on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Twitch, and right here on TikTok, on Facebook as well. Which one didn't I mention? Twitter, yes. So whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, or right here on TikTok, please power tap, like the live. If you're on TikTok, please click on the heart icon above the image of Chief Bola and join the team. If you remember already, drop a heart, drop a gift. Let's try and keep the live going and let's push it to the FYP. Thank you very much. The next voice you will hear will be that of Chief Bola, the Cicero himself. God bless you.
Here comes the Cicero of Africa, Chief Bola. Mo kí ààrẹ ẹgbẹ́ wa, ààrẹ Gbádébẹ̀ṣe. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ fún ọ̀rọ̀ ìwúrí tí ọjọ́ ọ̀gbọ̀n sí ẹlẹ́nu. onílàákàyè ọgbọ́n àti òye tọ́lọ́run fún ẹ ọlọ́run nígbà. Mo kí ẹ̀yin olóyè ẹgbẹ́ ọmọ Yorùbá, gbogbo ẹ̀yin ògbóǹtarìgì tẹ wá láti lé, pàápàá àbúrò mi dáradára tí a gbélé láti du ipò wa ààrẹ Nàìjíríà ní February 1999 olóyè Fàlàyé. Ayé a máa bà sí ní o. Mo kí àbúrò mi dáadáa, Àlàní ọ̀rọ̀. Jagunmólú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni. Nígbà tí ti bá wù, máa rántí ní July 1967, wọ́n ṣe ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ogun abẹ́rẹ́ yìí. Ó wá fún òlẹ́nìkan tí mo mọ̀ dáadáa náà ọgbà àwọn àṣefà kan ní ìsìn fún ṣe ń sọ. Ó wá sọ fún nítàn Ìbàdàn tó kù ló nítàn sí. Kò mọ̀ pé mo wà níbi tí mo ti ń gbọ́ tẹlifóònù tó ń fóònù sí nítàn wípé òun múra òun lọ mú ojú wá. Ó sì lọ, kò gbé sájò, òun náà ló wá gbàgbọ́ wá. Sí ọ̀rọ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire àbúdíńtóbi àbúdíńtóbi ibi tó ti mú tó ti ń ná fún wa ọlọ́run náà pèsè fún ẹsẹ̀ mi. Ilé náà tó ń múra tó ń làkàkà wípé kò ṣe ní bó ṣe yẹ kí ọmọlúwàbí ṣe ìlú ẹ̀ á ṣe ṣe fún ẹ. Mo wá kí Frederick Fásitì Ifá ẹ̀wọ̀n sẹ́mu torí ẹ̀yìn tẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ Yorùbá tẹ́ máa ń pè ní fáṣe kìíní kan Fásitì Ifá ò sẹ́mu. That is, Ifá does not say that which is not right. Ifá will be wrong. It is always right. Ifá ẹ̀mí sẹ́mu ó sì ṣe ń kó àwọn kéékèèké jọ nínú PC ọkọ̀ ọba òní ṣá ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ rẹ̀. Bàbá ó ti pẹ́ tó ti ń lọ wàá gbin kóró pé wàá gbin wọ́dẹ̀ kájà ẹsẹ̀ tó kéré rẹ̀ ọlọ́run lọ́bi tó máa ń rìn dé. Gbogbo bó ṣe jẹ́ láti 1960s láti jọ ń làkàkà wípé a máa kọ̀yà fúnlẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òṣèré ọlọ́run náà kọ̀yà tiwa náà. Mo á fẹ́ kí àbúrò mi ìgbóná ọmọ wa lọ̀gún tó jí gbogbo nǹkan tó ń dà ní ọ̀nà gbogbo nǹkan tá a wà ẹ̀fún ẹ̀ tá a fẹ́ fún ẹ̀ fún ẹ̀ á mọ ẹ̀ lágbára náà. Ọlọ́run ló kọ́ ẹ wípé kò ní ìtẹ̀ríba kò sì ní ìbáralẹ̀. Ibi tá a fẹ́ kó di o máa débẹ̀ ní kò pẹ́ kò jìnnà ló sì máa jẹ́ lágbára náà. lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí ní kí ààrẹ wa òkú bó ṣe kó orí tútù àti orí gbígbẹ́jọ́ léèdè àwọn kan ń ṣe ìpàdé níbòmíì nǹkan tí ń fi ìlú sí ni pé wọ́n ní ẹgbẹ́ ni àwọn jẹ́ ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú ìdí nìyẹn tó jẹ́ pé aṣáájú mi sẹ́nitọ́ Adésọ̀yà wà ní Miami tí wọ́n ti ń ṣe ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ní kí gbogbo wa bí kí n ṣe ní pẹ̀lẹ́ ẹ̀yin náà ẹ rántí pé wọ́n wà níbí lọ́dún tó kọjá ọkàn wọn wà níbí ibi tí wọ́n sì láwọn lọ wọ́n ní oko wípé kí ìyapamọ́ wà láwọn ṣọ́nà náà wá jẹ́ kó ṣe ṣọ̀wọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa tẹ́ wà ní ẹ̀yin ojúlówó ọmọ káàárọ̀ òjìlé mo kí ní gbé ẹ̀kọ́ ọ̀nà ẹ̀sìn fún ìpàdé n ò kí yín kúlé nítorí pé Atlanta kì í ṣe lé wa. Jimmy Carter òun lè pe Georgia nílé ọ̀rẹ́ mi dáadáa Andrew òun náà lè pe Atlanta lé ṣùgbọ́n fún gbogbo àwa ẹnì kọ̀ọ̀kan wa mọ̀ wá ìlú tí ò bá ti ní oríkì ilé rẹ̀ ń ṣe lé. Tàbí tí bá pé Jimmy Carter ní ara ẹ bó tiẹ̀ jẹ́ pé àgùyọ̀ lọ. Sì ní bèrè pé dáadáa ni mo bá ń torí mo rí ẹ̀kẹ́ ní orí ẹ̀mí ní ìwé. Nígbà tí mo rí táwọn onílù mo á sọ fún presidential candidate wa ní ìyẹn ní pé a lè rí irú àwọn onílù níbí ó ní kò tí ìyá ẹ ṣàlọ́ra dúró lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ kan ìdílé jẹ́ lágbọ̀rọ̀ dáadáa ní gbogbo wa máa wà ìlú àjèjì láwa yìí ìpéjọpọ̀ wa jẹ́ àpẹẹrẹ wípé ẹ ò gbàgbé ilẹ̀ Oòduà Ọlọ́run ò gbàgbé yìí náà akúkú ti mọ̀ wípé àdélébáre ti ẹyẹ ikú ọ̀nà sí ìdí kátẹ́gùn má rí gbígbà níta àwọn obìnrin kọ́ èrè lóbìnrin jẹ lẹ́yìn ọ̀dọ̀ agbára Ọlọ́run ọ̀nà yóò ní bí o ẹ̀ sì kóró eko èrè oko nítorí pé àti Atlanta ní àti Houston ní o níbi tí òtútù ṣe wà ní o àti Chicago ní o àti New York ní o àti Columbia ní o oko ní gbogbo ẹ̀ ilẹ̀ wa ilẹ̀ Oòduà onílé àdúrà ẹ̀kọ́ ìjọ kejìlá oṣù Júù lèyí. A lè dárúkọ 12th of June ká má rántí nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ọdún mẹ́fà sẹ́yìn. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹni tó jẹ́ nǹkan tá a lè pè ní linchpin òun ni olóyè Báṣọ̀run Kẹwà Abíọ́lá tó ti fi ilẹ̀ bora bí aṣọ. Jákàdé ní ìṣẹ́jú méjì kárọ̀tì Báṣọ̀run Kẹwà. ẹ̀yin lè ti dá àwọn èèyàn ńláńlá fún wa tí àwọn ti wọlé pàtàkì àwọn tí ọmọ yìí Mọ̀ṣúù Káṣíwá Ọláwálé Abíọ́lá àwọn tí ń pé ohun ìlú àlórí ẹ̀ ti pè lọ sí ọ̀dọ́ ní ó sì wà ní kan náà pẹ̀lú Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀ bàbá Ajáṣin ẹsẹ̀ Akíntọ́lá Rèwálé àti gbogbo àwọn bẹ́ẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ó sì wà pẹ̀lú ìyàwó rẹ̀ Kudirat bàbá náà jùlọ à ń bẹ̀ léwu àwa tó ń fi sílẹ̀ níbí ẹ jẹ́ ká máa ṣe ti wọn dáadáa a sì ń bẹ̀ yẹn ẹsẹ̀ wa tẹ́ ti fi lé ọ̀nà ìyè àti ọ̀nà dáradára kúnlẹ̀ káàkiri òjijì ẹ má máa jẹ́ kọ́nà ọ̀nà wa kó di o ẹgbẹ́ àdúrà àwọn ọmọ àtọwọ́ àgbèrè orúkọ Jésù Kristi ìlú àti ìgbàlà wa ẹ jókòó. My compatriots, despite my earnest wishes, it was not possible for me to be with you last year when your great association met in the city of Philadelphia. I was, of course, present with you in spirit. Today, it affords me very great pleasure to be here, not only in spirit, but with my soul and with my body, and whatever else constitutes the human person. Last year, it was my son, Oluwa, who conveyed to you my heartfelt gratitude for being honored with your award. Let me just assure you, our beloved President, Professor Federalism, the time has not diminished in my appreciation for that award. And so I'd like to add my own words of thanks. Ẹ ṣeun púpọ̀ ohun ìwúrí ẹ ṣe fún mi lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí mo tún dúpẹ́ Oòduà ní gbogbo wa Oòduà tí ẹ ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí gbé wá ibi tá à ń lọ ilẹ̀ lérí à ń wò lọ́ọ̀kan báyìí kì í ṣe ibi tó jìnnà mọ́ a sì máa débẹ̀ ní. Èmi ṣùgbọ́n Ọlọ́run mi dá májẹ̀mú pé ohunkóhun tí bá lè ṣe láti mú ọjọ́ ìlérí náà yá èmi á ṣe ní ilé àwọn ẹgbẹ́ bí ìdílé bí táwọn kan bá sọ̀rọ̀ ní Nàìjíríà máa ń lò wọ́n pé ẹyẹ ló dá kàkà má dá kàkà tí ò bá sí pé wọ́n kó ẹ̀rọ lérò. In sub-Saharan Africa, there is no country whose population is as large as that of the Yoruba. If population makes Nigeria the giant of Africa, then the Yorubas are Africa's giant nationality. I say this not because I want us to gloat. The medical strength of itself is nothing to gloat about. What I'm trying to do is to remind us of what was there. Táwọn kan bá sọ̀rọ̀ ní Nàìjíríà máa ń wò wọ́n pé ẹyẹ ló dákà má dá wọn lọ. Tí ò bá sí pé wọ́n kó ẹ̀rọ lérò. In sub-Saharan Africa, there is no country whose population is as large as that of the Yoruba. If population makes Nigeria the giant of Africa, then the Yorubas are Africa's giant nationality. I say this not because I want us to gloat. Numerical strength of itself is nothing to gloat about. What I'm trying to do is to remind us of what must be our historical responsibility in Nigeria and Africa as humanity approaches the next millennium. For too long, my dear brothers and sisters, Africa has been outside the orbit of modern progress. We, the Yorubas, must accept the challenge of setting the pace for the much needed cultural, scientific, and technological renaissance in Africa. To do this requires that we remain firmly rooted in the nobility of our culture, while imbibing fresh ideas and innovations without which a people stagnate. Being rooted in our culture means the preservation of our language, our clothing. And you know, it's a ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ bá wo ẹ̀ẹ́dì pé Chibolúfàlàyé àti àbúrò mi Ègbónà ẹ̀ẹ́dì pé fìlà kan náà ni wọ́n dé. Díẹ̀ ló kù débi náà ó ti tẹ̀lé wá torí nǹkan tá a fi ṣẹ̀yẹ fún bàbá Ajáṣe nìyẹn. Fìlà tí gbogbo wa dé nígbà tí bàbá Ajáṣe lọ fún wa. Àbúrò mi kan wá kí mi bí. Ó tún pọ̀ lókè, ó dé fìlà Haúsá ló ti ní lẹ́yìn èmi ní gbọ́dọ̀ ní fìlà Haúsá lórí. Yorùbá kọ́kọ́ ò gbọ́dọ̀ dé fìlà Haúsá. Ṣé lábàǹkádà láàní ni àbábí tí a já àdúgbò? Kásì máa dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ náà wo. Torí àwọn tó jẹ́ pé tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ ewé ni wọ́n fi ń ṣaṣọ ní ìsìn tẹ́ bá lọ sí ìlú wọn ìbáàjẹ́ plateau ni ìbáàjẹ́ Adamawa ni nígbà tẹ́ bá rí aṣọ òkè lára wọn àwọn náà ti ń jo èèyàn ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá wo gbogbo ayé àìkọ́ta lè fi yan gan ni yàtọ̀ sí àwọn Indians àwọn tó ń mọ aṣọ wọ̀ dáadáa jù ní Yorùbá pàápàá àwọn obìnrin wa á dá orí ọjà ní. We must look after our food no matter where we may be on this planet. For example, hamburger. It is not an American invention. It came from Hamburg. Pizza, for example. Is it an American invention? It came from Italia. And thank God, much of what is called soul food in the USA came from Africa. Tabasi lọ sí ilé àwọn dúdú yẹn nígbà tábà bó ṣe ń ṣe ẹ̀wà àti àgbàdo wọn ẹ rí i pé ẹ̀wà ń gbà ní ojú ọmú kẹta ń jẹ léṣà. But, and this is the real part, the world is waiting for our igno, the world is waiting for our amala, the world is waiting for our moi moi, and the world is waiting for our kara. that means we must develop ways in which these can be made in less laborious manner than the traditional ways of making them. That also means that just like the Chinese have done with their traditional foods, we may have to modify the ingredients for consumption in a global market. Now, I'm particularly concerned about the preservation of our language in the diaspora. And I want to comment, as Dr. Manjia Inoge said here, about those who've been doing a lot of work in that respect. Whether we live in London, or Toronto, or Paris, or Abidjan, or Houston, or Washington, or Atlanta, Yoruba children must be taught to speak Yoruba. We know from child psychology that children are able to speak simultaneously up to 6 languages. And I just want to say, at the risk of being modest, I am a living example. When I was young in Canada, I spoke Hausa, Igbo, English, and Yoruba fluently. And so there is no excuse whatsoever for any of our children to lose the Yoruba language simply because we live abroad. Duty when a child loses the language of his or her ancestry. And because language is the most important vehicle for culture, a child who loses his or her language has lost a cardinal portion of his or her culture. Members of our beloved Ẹkáàbọ Yoruba must find ways to establish Yoruba language institutes to redress past errors of neglect in this regard. My brothers and sisters, let us learn from the Jews who did not lose their language even after the 19th centuries of dispersal. It is those of you in North America and Western Europe who must accept the challenge of using modern technology to advance the culture of our people. For example, and I think this morning I was so glad to see the son of one of my best friends, by Joshua. He came in. He came from Cleveland to see Uncle Bola. That's Damos. Damilola, that's his real name, but he's been known as Damos since he was a child. Where are you? Good. He and many others among you here stand up so that you can be coconized. Now he and many of you young ones, you are whiz kids in computer, whether internet or worldnet or whatever, or NigerNet. We want to beg you, you must develop software that can use the Yoruba language. There are 6 million people in Denmark, whereas there are Microsoft Word software in Danish. There is not one for the over 30 million Yorubas in the world. You and I know that because of considerations for profits, Mr. Bill Gates is not likely to think of a Yoruba version of Microsoft Software Word. And if we must publish new books in Yoruba, if we must preserve advanced Yoruba literature, then Yorubas in diaspora must ensure that Yoruba texts can be published using the latest technology. And I'm sincere that the EGs of Professor Shegun Badigeshi, and others who are in various institutes of Yoruba in various parts of the United States. I sincerely hope that when you invite me to the next reunion, you will be advertising a software in Yoruba language. I have a second task for you. That is the task of rehabilitating the decayed infrastructure at home. Let me give you some examples. I regret to say that if you go home now, whether it is what you call your villages or towns and cities, our secondary schools are in a very bad state of disrepair. I want to beg you to coordinate programs of repairing the decrepit infrastructure. Please stock the libraries with books. Make sure that the laboratories work. Serve as role models for the people. And let our people know that salvation is in our own hands, not in the hands of government. And I'm saying this because àwọn kan wà Nàìjíríà yẹn tó jẹ́ pé àjòrè ìlú wọn fẹ́ kí Yorùbá jó ìrọ́kẹ̀ náà pa kò ní rí bẹ́ẹ̀. Torí ọdún mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dógún, ọdún mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dọ́gbọ̀n, 50 ọdún tí léluwé bá ti rí ẹ̀kú wájú ló máa kílẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn kọ́kọ́ ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láàrin wa. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn iléèwé wa ní ìsìn tá a bá dénú wọn ẹ̀kún àgbọ̀n wa. Ìkọ̀ tó sì wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé nǹkan kéékèèké la fi lè ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn iléèwé wa ní òjò ti gbé lọ. Kì í ṣe ẹ̀sà òkè nìkan lòjò ti gbé grammar school wa lọ. Ó ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ní Ọ̀ra. Ó ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ní Òkè Onígbì. Ó tọ́ ni o. Kò tiẹ̀ síbi kankan lẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjìrè tí òjò kì í gbé àwọn grammar school wa lọ. Nítorí pé àwọn grammar school tá a ti kọ́ ní 1979 to 1983 nígbà UPN ní gbogbo lẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjìrè nìkan ló wà bẹ́ẹ̀. Àwọn sọ́jà ò kọ́ iléèwé kankan sí mọ́. Àfikún tí wà lówó. And then ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn primary schools wa èyí tó bá fẹ́ ní Awólọ́wọ̀ ti kọ́ láti. Mo fẹ́ bẹ̀ ẹgbẹ́ ọmọ Ìbàdàn ẹ ṣe ìpàdé Ìbàdàn grammar school ní kẹ́ kọ́kọ́ fowó ránṣẹ́ sí. Ẹ jẹ́ gbọ́ olùmí government college ní ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀yin náà ṣàpọ̀ pé bí kì í ṣe wèrè o ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ní kí àwọn abúwèrè náà kọ́kọ́ ó kọ́kọ́ máa ń lọ sọ. Kíláàsì náà àbí àpèmọ́ ni kọ́lá àpè tèmi dire. Ìbáàjẹ́ Ìbàdàn àti wá ìbáàjẹ́ Sáòkè ìbáàjẹ́ Gbọ̀ngàn ìbáàjẹ́ Ìkìrun ìbáàjẹ́ Òkè Onígbì ìbáàjẹ́ Oǹdó ẹ̀jọ̀. $5,000 $18 billion. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, ṣe ẹgbẹ́ tó bá lóun tiẹ̀ fẹ́ dá ọwọ́ ọ̀nà síwájú Yorùbá dúró kó kàn ṣeré ní. Gbogbo ilẹ̀ máa kéré oko wálé o. Nítorí pé $18 billion ní ọwọ́ yìí ló ti wá. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn òbí yìí àdúrà tó ń gbà fún yóò máa bọ́ níbi. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ máa padà wálé máa sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn náà ní ìsìn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń ronú àti owó tẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ sí bàbá àbí bàbá àtàwọn ọmọ nítẹ̀ nílé ẹjọ́ ẹ máa lo tàwọn schools yẹn. They need all our assistance. Ìlú yìí ṣe mọ̀ pé tẹ́ bá tiẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ tó mẹ́wàá tẹ́ bá dá $100, $1,000 kẹwàá sọ fún school kan pé ẹ fẹ́ kọ́ fi ra ìwé fún library. That is $1,000 is $100,000. A ṣe é ṣe fún yín o. One last thing. And third, I want to beg, because all of you are highly educated. Kò sí kankan dún yìí tí ò ní ṣe. Iṣẹ́ ẹ̀yà sì máa gbèrú ní o. Iṣẹ́ ẹ̀yà ò ní lórí iṣẹ́ oníṣẹ́ o. I would like each one of you to start a volunteer program through which you can return to Nigeria to avail our people of your skills and expertise. Láàárọ̀ yìí, dáhùn sí sọ fún mi nǹkan tí mi ti ẹ̀rọ rí, ṣùgbọ́n bàbá Olúsọ. Àṣé kìí ṣe pé ìjọba gbọ́dọ̀ gbowó lẹ̀ ká tó ṣe housing estate. Ọ̀pọ̀ tẹ̀lé àwọn wa tẹ̀ nílé ìsìn, àwa àní. Ẹ̀yin lẹ́nu máa sí wa gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ àwọn nǹkan tó yẹ ká máa ṣe. Nítorí pé nǹkan táwa ti kọ́ ó yàtọ̀ sí nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ìsinyìí. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n fún yín ní example kan. Ìwé ìròyìn kan kò ní pẹ́ jáde tí Ládébọ́dún Ọlá, Fẹ́mi Kúsá àti Ẹ̀ṣínà Odùgbèmí àti gbogbo ọdún máa dálẹ̀. Tẹ́ bá wo lẹ́ka náà òjìire, àwọn aráàlú ni wọ́n ní gbogbo newspapers àti rédíò. Yàtọ̀ sí Punch àti Tribune kò sí pépà Yorùbá. Guardian, and I can tell you this, nígbà tá a ṣe presidential election, wọ́n gbé gbogbo campaign wa fún Olú. Wọ́n á wá bó ṣe máa twist ẹ̀ wípé ìkọ̀kọ̀ ó ṣẹlẹ̀ dẹ̀ ní pàkọ́. Nítorí pé kí ni àwọn ìkúrú ni wọ́n di Guardian, Samamuka olódi Vanguard, ọba ìgbẹ́dà olódi This Day. Ibi tó bá ti máa fi orí wa tó máa fi lọ́ra wa ló máa wá. Yàtọ̀ sí Punch àti Tribune àti Concord kò sí pépà Yorùbá. Ìyẹn ni mo ṣe sọ fún Makines láàárọ̀ Ètùkùsì, mo sì fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ní èèyàn wa. Ẹ̀yin tí Ọlọ́run fún ní kàdó lápò torí àwa ní ìsìn ibi táwọn wá kàdó lọ. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀yin kẹ́ máa ṣiṣẹ́ kẹ́ máa lówó kẹ́ wá máa lọ́lẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire ní o. Mo ṣe máa sọ fún àwọn tó máa lọ sí Àbújá nìyẹn, ẹ ṣáà lọ gba owó wá láti Àbújá kẹ́ wá lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ní wa. Inú pépà yẹn tó máa jáde táwọn Ládébọ́dún Ọlá máa ṣe ẹ láti fi owó sí i. Ìbí ìlú ìjọba ní 20,000 jẹ́ 2 million kọ́ ní yẹn 2 million yẹn akẹ́ Ọlọ́run sì ṣe ìbí ìlú yìí 20,000 yẹn bí mú kókó. Let the teachers among you come and teach our students. Let the doctors among you come and treat our people. A surgeon who spends only 2 weeks in Nigeria a year will have lasting effects on the lives of our people. And thanks to internet, the world is a global village now. But everyone must know his or her own heart in that village. And so, make sure that you participate in the discourse of our national affairs and be sure to give those in power regular feedback. Avail them of the wisdom of your counsel, and when and where the leadership is wrong, do not spare it, but remember to commend it if it does right. Kí n tó wá parí ọ̀rọ̀ mi. Kí ni ibi tí àwa Yorùbá dúró sí? Ipò tá a dúró sí kò yàtọ̀. Eléyìí tó wà yìí interlude ni o. Èyí tí mo sọ yìí kò ṣe é kọ sínú ìwé. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí èèyàn kọ́kọ́ lù wá. Àti ìdè ilẹ̀ ìlérí iṣẹ́ sí ìwà wájú wa tá a ní láti ṣe. Kí ni mo sọ? Ṣé rí ipò tí a fi sílẹ̀ nílànà tí Afẹ́nifẹ́re ti gbélẹ̀ 1994 pàtàkì fẹ́ ṣe constitutional conference a gbọ́dọ̀ yẹsẹ̀ ní ipò yẹn. Ẹnikẹ́ni tẹ́ ẹ bá tún fẹ́ ẹ lọ wo nǹkan tí ààrẹ Bádékẹ́ṣin tó sọ nígbà tó wá sí Ìbàdàn February àbí April ó wà ní ìwé ìṣọ̀kan Yorùbá. Ibi tá a dúró sí ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀. Tẹ́ bá sì wo ìwé ìṣọ̀kan Yorùbá èyí tó ti publish kó tó ṣáájú eléyìí text proposal tí a gbé lọ sí constitutional conference ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀. Nǹkan tá a ní láti dúró ti nìyẹn o. Constitution tó gbé jáde ní ìsìn olóògbògbò constitution. Èmi àti Chief Onífàdà yà á sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. àníṣe ó wà ní òfin ìsìn wípé ilé aṣòfin Àbújá ó lè pàṣẹ òfin fún state government. Yes, ṣé yẹn wá jẹ́ constitution tó dá? Èmi bíi lọ́yà èmi ti lòdì sí National Judicial Council lọ́fíìsì ní constitution nítorí wọ́n wá àwọn tó máa ṣe tiwọn wọ́n fẹ́ máa yan adájọ́ fún wa láti Àbújá. Ẹ má jẹ́ nítorí pé ìkọ̀tà láti sọ ní ìsìn òní pé ibi tá a dúró sí 1994 yẹn la dúró sí nípa oníkálukú tó dánkù yẹn nìyí. èyí tá a sì ṣe níìsì àwọn kan fẹ́ kí ọmọ wa Olúṣẹ́gun Ọbásanjọ́ wọ́n fẹ́ ká bọ́ aṣọ ara ẹ̀ ká wá tì í sáwọn kan káwọn wá ṣe níṣekúṣe mo ní kúkú ní kìíní. ìdí ẹ̀ tá a fi ṣe tá a ṣe níìsì ta ní kọkùnrin rédíò obìnrin pa òní pé àfẹ́ kí irú nǹkan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ṣe kúkú màmá ara bí tẹ bá ṣe nǹkan tó dáa lọ́dún mẹ́jọ wọ́n lè débẹ̀ láàrin wákàtí kan wọ́n dànù ọ̀bàjẹ́ ànígbà àfẹ́ situation àfẹ́ nǹkan tó máa dé tí fẹ́ràn kan tá ló mọ̀ mọ́ Joseph náà ìdí ẹ̀ nìyẹn gbogbo ìtọ́ àṣẹ ní ìsìn à ń dẹjú lẹ̀ ká máa lè rí mú ni. Àní ọmọ wa fún kọ̀lọ̀kọ̀lọ̀ pa jẹ́. Mo sì ti ń bẹ Jagunmólú, mò ń bẹ Wọlé Ṣóyínká, mò ń bẹ Ṣọlá Adéyẹyè, mò ń bẹ Fred Fásẹ̀rù. Láì tẹ́ ẹ̀ ń gbà yẹn gbọ́dọ̀ fi lẹ̀. Ètí òyìnbó pè ní two-pronged attack. A máa ń sọ fún orí, a sì máa rọra múra lẹ̀ torí ó lè ìjà lè pẹ́ tá a gbà tó bá yá. A gbọ́dọ̀ túra lẹ̀. A gbọ́dọ̀ túra lẹ̀. Nítorí pé nítòótọ́ Olúṣẹ́gun Ọbásanjọ́ gbà tó débẹ̀ ó ń ṣe dáadáa. Ó ń ṣe nǹkan tá à ń fẹ́ kó ṣe. Ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pariwo a sì láti fi hàn wípé ibi òótọ́ ibi dáadáa làwa fẹ́ kó lọ nítòótọ́ àdìbò fún èmi yìí mo ṣe kàmpéènì pé wọn gbọ́dọ̀ dìbò fún Ọbásanjọ́ mo sì ní Yorùbá gbọ́dọ̀ dìbò fún wọn sì dìbò fún ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan tó náà fi dá wa Yorùbá yàtọ̀ òní pé ká bá rẹ tó ń ṣe dáadáa á sọ pé á fọwọ́ pa lórí á sì ní fi ọmọ wa fẹ́ kó pàjẹ́. ẹ tẹ́ wà nílùú òkèèrè ẹ má túra lẹ́ o ẹ sì láti máa ṣẹ́ àwa aṣáájú nígbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ àwa ti pinnu a sì ti bọ́lọ́run wa dá májẹ̀mú wípé ibi tí Ọlọ́run ní kí á gbé Káàárọ̀ Oòjíire ilẹ̀ Oòduà dé a máa gbé débẹ̀ ni. And I want to make it absolutely clear in the leadership of the Yoruba people among us there is not the slightest dispute or disagreement about that. Àti ìdílé ẹ̀rí o àwọn bí wọ́n lè fẹ́ wá da àríwá rú àgbọ̀dọ̀ gbà wọ́n láyè. Mo fi Ọlọ́run bẹ̀yìn Jagunmólú mo fi Ọlọ́run bẹ̀yìn nílẹ̀ Amẹ́ríkà bíi ipò tọ́lọ̀ gbé yín sí gbọ́dọ̀ yẹsẹ̀ ń bẹ́ o jọ gbogbo ẹ̀ tí a mẹ́tẹ̀ wà ní àti gbogbo ẹ̀ yẹn ẹgbẹ́ mi. Bó bá jẹ́ tó owó ni ẹ lọ́wọ́ sí o tó bá jẹ́ tó owó orí ni ẹ lọ sí o àwọn governors máa mẹ́fẹ̀ẹ̀fà a gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ kí wọ́n jẹ́ pé àwọn ni wọ́n máa jẹ́ àwòjíìjì fún gbogbo Nàìjíríà. Ẹ bá gbọ́ pé kankan ló wà à ń ṣe kankan tó bá dá ẹnì wá ṣùgbọ́n ẹ má yìí wá jù kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tó sọ fún wa pé Uncle Bola ó sì kù díẹ̀ tẹ́ máa ṣe nítorí ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ò kì í ṣoríṣẹ́. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ kí ímeèlì wa kó dínkù o. Gbogbo information tí ẹ bá gbọ́ ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ fi tó wa létí ká bá lè máa fi sọ́wọ́ òsì ká má lè fi jẹun. Ó ṣe pàtàkì. Ẹ má ní nítorí ètí wà Nàìjíríà. Yes, President Obasanjo has started on a good foot, but the constitution is flawed and aláti wá máa ṣe máa da constitution yẹn. President Obasanjo ó ti búra wípé òun máa hold constitution. Ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ní kí n búra màá yá lọ́la sọ síbẹ̀ pé ìwọ Oòduà o mọ̀ pé tí ẹni mò ń ṣe o. Mo tún wá fẹ́ bẹ̀ àwọn ìjọba mẹ́fẹ̀ẹ̀fà tó jẹ́ ti káàárọ̀ òjíire yẹn ẹ jọ̀ọ́ inú ohun tí Ọlọ́run ṣe fún yín ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká máa fi díẹ̀ ránṣẹ́. It is quite possible for you to have ideas about estates, about factories, about things like that. Please don't think that it is only in America that you can do well. I say this, if you know how to package shit in Nigeria, you will sell it. Ìtọ̀ lásán tó bá mọ̀ bó ṣe máa gbé sínú ìgò tó máa bí tó máa dàbí bíà àwọn kan bú. Mo tún wá fẹ́ bẹ̀ wá. Vigilance. Ladies and gentlemen, mo fẹ́ pẹ́lú wọlé wípé ẹ pè mí wá wípé kí wá bá yín sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire, ilẹ̀ post-military Nigeria. Human destiny is dictated by the attention that is given to virtues or vices. Embracing liberty and justice as a people, and having determined to work hard for the progress of our nation, my faith is unshakable that in the next post-military dispensation, the Yorubas must serve as the benchmark for political liberalism, fair play and progress. That was how it was under Obafemi Awolowo. That is what heritage at our new generation heritage àwọn jẹ́ àwọn ọmọ wa tí wọ́n ní iṣẹ́ dáadáa lọ́wọ́ tó jẹ́ pé inú wa sì dùn wípé Ọlọ́run bùkún ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ti bá ọkọ wọn dá májẹ̀mú wípé ní agbára Ọlọ́run by 2000 AD òmìnira máa dé fúnlẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire. Èmi sì mọ̀ dájú wípé Ọlọ́run Oòduà, Ọlọ́run Ọ̀rànmíyàn, Ọlọ́run Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀, Ọlọ́run Adékúnlé Ajáṣin mú wa dé ilẹ̀ tuntun náà níbi tí ẹ̀gbin ìyà àti ìrẹ́jẹ kò ní sí fún ọmọ káàárọ̀ òjíire mọ́. Tá bá sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ilẹ̀ ìlérí tí a fẹ́ lọ yìí, àwọn tí ọ̀rọ̀ òye wọ́n máa kù bí egbére. Lójú àwọn egbére tí mò ń wí, ó dàbí ẹni pé ohun ẹ̀yẹ ni kí ènìyàn máa wà nínú ẹ̀gbin, nínú ìyà, nínú ìrẹ́jẹ. Tá bá sì fojú wo, kì í ṣe àwa Yorùbá nìkan ni ìyà ń jẹ ní Nàìjíríà. Bí Yorùbá ti bọ̀ wọ́n ní àrùn tó ń ṣe ojì náà ló ń ṣọ̀ọ́dún. Ohun tó ń ṣe Abọ́yadé kọ́ o. Ìyà tó ń jẹ Ṣógbẹ̀yìn l'Abẹ́òkúta ń kọ́. Òun náà ló ń jẹ Súlè ní Kòńtàgórà. Èmi tó bá ń pa ọ̀bá múlò ní Adó-Èkìtì kọ́. Ṣé ó yàtọ̀ sí èyí tó ń pa Ìkejùkù ní Abakaliki? Nígbà tí mo sọ Ìkejùkù ní ìsìn, wá rántí tí wọ́n láyé ló ń jẹ́ kí rántí o. Nígbà tí a wà ní Òbúgà, ẹ̀yin náà àti gbọ́ olóyè Akíntọ́lá ló ń pe Ọ̀gá ní Òbúgà. Ó wá polongo ẹgbẹ́ NNDP lẹ́sà òkè ló ń bí ọjà wa kẹ́kẹ́ tó bá ti kọjá ẹ̀sà wípé ẹ̀ lọ sókè bẹ̀ sí. Ilé àwọn Ìkejùkù ló. Ìjẹ́bọ̀ àwọn aláìsí action group àti NCNC àwọn adé ọgbà àgbà yẹn ló máa kúkú mú ìgbé àti túkú ló máa pa pọ̀. Mi mọ̀ bóyá Bọ́lájí wà ní tí Bọ́lájí bá wà ní kó gbọ́ ilé yìí o torí tó bá di ọ̀rẹ́ mi á sọ fún ẹ. Tí Akíntọ́lá ó lọ sí òde ló wá ní wọ́n máa sọ men of integrity bẹ́ẹ̀ làwọn kan wà ní tí wọ́n integrity o. Wọ́n á ṣí ṣe ojú gbọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n yẹn Àkúrẹ́ ìlú àwọn olú àti fásọ̀rọ̀ tí lélẹ̀ ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ Ṣùgbọ́n Akíntọ́lá ló ṣe campaign. Gbogbo ẹni wọ́n sì kó náwó sókè o. Gbogbo wọn náwó sókè. Gbogbo ẹni wọ́n sì kó náwó sókè. Gbogbo wọn ọwọ́ ni mo ti ń bọ̀ ní mo rẹ́ ní ajá sí. Story and I finished that one. 1962 ni mo kọ article sí Tribune. Mo kọ article kan. Aláti dúpẹ́ fún àwọn èèyàn yẹn nítorí pé tó bá jẹ́ pé kí èèyàn sọ Yorùbá ni èèyàn kan tí mo rí gbogbo lẹ̀ káàró òjìrè tá a lè sọ kó rival Chief Akíntọ́lá òní Dr. C.L. Adéoyè àti bóyá ààrẹ wa Gbádégẹṣin sáà. adàpọ̀yẹ bó bá di pé kí aráàlú ká kẹsẹ̀ sí ṣòkòtò láti gbọ́n ìyá ọmọ Yorùbá di ẹni tí ń wà wájú Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kí ẹ̀yà wa pọ́n ẹnu mọ́ ìyá bí omi ìrèké ẹ̀yà Oòduà a kì í wá ọ̀nà àti rẹ́ ẹnì kejì jẹ ṣùgbọ́n o àwa náà à ní gbà kẹ́nikẹ́ni rẹ́ wa jẹ àwọn tó bá rò pé àwọn máa fi àtàkùn ìrẹ́jẹ bọ̀ wá nínú ó dàbí ẹni káwọn náà ti rí báyìí wípé jáde ẹ̀ bá bà lókùn kọ́ o. This time last year, many of us were still being held in prison. Chibolifalaye and Frederick Faseun, they were in Alabama clothes. Don't you pack a bill and my dog killer. Èmi kọ́ mo họra kura ní Makudi prison. And what was that? Just one. We were opposed to the autocratic design which the late Sani Abacha was proposing for our husband. In 4 days, you might not disturb me, please. I wait until you finish. In 4 days, that's on June 16, I shall with gratitude to God mark the first anniversary of my release from Makudi prison, where Sani Abacha's henchmen had incarcerated me. And what a difference that 1 year has made for us. And we here are ocular demonstration of what God has done. And so I can say that today, although the venomous effects of Sani Abacha's abominable regime still permeate many facets of Nigerian nation, Abacha himself can no longer derive sinister pleasure from the imposition of his evil will on Nigeria. Many of those who once paraded themselves as Abacha's courtiers quickly became Olympic sprinters, dashing to distance themselves from their evil mentor and corrupt benefactor. By stark contrast, Abacha's heroic prisoners of conscience, such as Olufalaye, Frederick Faseun, Bear Koransan Kuti, Shehu Sani, Frank Kokori, Milton Dabibi, Chris Anyanwu, Kule Ajibade, with whom I shared prison in Makudi, and many others are now free to continue the struggle for which we were unjustly imprisoned, without trial and in total contravention of fundamental human rights. And just as Abacha's exit from power under ignominious circumstances demonstrates the supremacy of God, so does the eventual fate of one particular prisoner, Olusegun Obasanjo, once unjustly incarcerated, now occupies the very position that Abacha craved with murderous passion, that of the civilian president of Nigeria. Our God must have a huge sense of irony. As many of you know, for very, many years now, I have always posited that a military regime can never be white democracy. Military mindset, military training, military proclivity, all these are largely antithetical to democratic practice. All that a nation can inherit from a military regime is a civilian administration. It is a civilian regime if it is attuned to the yearning of the people that can build white democracy. And as you know, what we have at the moment is the beginning of the struggle for true democracy. As you know, I myself did aspire to the presidency of Nigeria. Those who are closest to me knew that had my aspirations succeeded, we would have given Nigeria a transitional government to true democracy. I never deceived myself that I was going to bring about democracy simply because I was going to be elected. The instrument for doing that would have been an eclectic government of national unity, whose highest goal would have been the removal of all the structural barbed wires that have held Nigerians hostage for so long. But man can only propose. It is left to God to dispose. Obviously, God, who does all things well, carved and still carves a different role for me. In the light of the most recent events and the unnecessary controversy that they have generated, I'm sure that many of you would want to know what I perceive to be my role in the present state of affairs of Nigeria, with particular reference to the Yoruba nation in a post-military situation. For an answer, let me quickly take you on a detour on memory lane. Those of you, and I think there are some who are here, who are at the Liberty Stadium for my inauguration as the governor of Oyo State in 1979, would recall office, I addressed our people in Yoruba language. However, that address was ended with a short poem that I could not translate into Yoruba, and which I had written out some months earlier. And I said, self-knowledge, self-reverence, self-respect. These three alone lead life to sovereign power. Yet, not for power. Power of herself would come uncalled for, but to live by law. Acting the law we live by without fear. And because right is right, to follow right, or wisdom in this call of consequence. Now, encapsulated in that short poem are at least three cardinal principles. First, power should be sought only as an instrument, and wherever power is sought for its own sake, it degenerates into tyranny. Second, although adherence to the truth sometimes causes temporary setbacks, and some of us who are here are proof positive of that statement, only those whose loins are girded by truth are free from a life of fear. And third, anyone who does the right thing is never is its own best reward. With this in my mind, my role remains what it has always been and what it shall always be, to do the right thing in good conscience, regardless of reward or lack of it. What then is the right thing to do? For me, the right thing to do is quite simple. The demolition of tyranny in all of its manifestations. Today, The vast majority of our people are held hostage by ignorance, disease, and superstitions. The right thing to do is to ensure that as a matter of urgency, our comatose educational institutions are resuscitated. Our healthcare system has collapsed. Going to a Nigerian hospital is like keeping appointment with the consuls of death. The right thing to do, particularly in the 6 states of Yoruba land, which we now control, is to infuse new life into our healthcare system. Today, our cities have become sprawling ghettos. The concept of town planning has disappeared from the lexicon of administration in Nigeria. Whether it is Ikoyi, whether it is Victoria Island, whether it is Lekki, whether it is Bodija, whether it is Akure, whether it is Ado-Ekiti, whether it is Abeokuta, when you see some of the things that have happened in the last 15 years, you'll be amazed. All the plots of the government reservation areas have been chopped off because civil servants who are temporarily there just want to have their own slice of the GRA. The result, of course, is that something which no architectural expert or any sensible person would want. I mean, in Ibadan, you now have 3 plots being carved out of a former GRA plot. And the endless constructions that one finds are never an indicator of economic boom. Rather, they reveal the capacity of our Nigerian elite to acquire, often by corrupt means, every available parcel of land. They then proceed to build on them with minimal or no consideration for environmental aesthetics, or recreational needs, or even common sense. In Nigeria, it is not unusual to find an embassy, banking headquarters, office, mechanic and vulcanizer workshops, sandwiching private residences, and turning otherwise beautiful streets into congested slums, traffic nightmares, and sprawling eyesores. And so, at that mundane level, the right thing to do is to, particularly in Yoruba land, as you know, we the Yorubas are the only race of peasants who live in towns and cities in the whole world. In the whole world. You go and ask any demographer, they will tell you that Tiyo Bayato, whether it is in America, in Australia, or in parts of Nigeria, peasants live in small hamlets dotted all over their farms. Yorubas are the only ones. You go to Esauke, which is the largest city in the whole world with a population of which has a population of about 21 to 30,000. They come home between Friday and Sunday, it's in your long Sunday, then Monday is in your down. And then they go back from Tuesday. And all of you who come, I mean, the paramount ruler of Abo is here. He sees to what happens in the farm and in the fields, and then weekend he's back into the city of Akure. And every one of you, if you can cast your mind back, there are no villages in Yoruba land as villages that you have either in the north or in the east. There are no such villages. When you think about a place like Oguta, I don't know how many of you have been in the east, you just find that they have stretches of houses along the main road. Otio, Nile Yoruba, or Mowa, Abibeko. Is that they allow their imagination and the creative energy of their people to soar. You cannot take that away from America, and we, the people of Yoruba land, must learn that from them. The right thing to do in today's Nigeria is to be brave enough to give Nigerians the freedom they deserve, and without which they shall continue to waffle in stagnation. For me, there is no higher calling than to bring about a restructured Nigeria where all of us can benefit from the fruits of liberty. My dear brothers and sisters, my skin has become quite thick to the smear campaigns and tactics of calumny that defract my views. Before Kwame Nkrumah made Pan-Africanism a fad, I was already a Pan-Africanist. In pursuit of an Africanist ideal, I lived here in the United States in 1959 and 1960. I was part of a vanguard of young idealists, along with Julian Bond, Andrew Young, John Lewis, May King, a young girl at that time, but she's now a professor in Washington. We dreamt of and worked hard for a better world. A better America, a better Africa, and a better Nigeria. It was possible to make those aspiring to any political office in Nigeria to read the Federalist papers. Our country might be spared the intellectual silliness that masquerades as patriotism and nationalism. When one says these things, one gets the nonsensical accusation of being arrogant. But look, am I supposed to deceive myself simply because others are willing to deceive themselves? I know that we the Yorubas do not want to cheat others in any way. But we also do not wish to be cheated. Read the history of Nigeria. Who were the people who championed the creation of states? The Yorubas. Who provided legal, financial, and other material support to the TV and the United Middleman Congress during their struggle for autonomy? The Yorubas. Who provided support for the movement for the creation of cross-river Ogojas and river state? The Yorubas. Read the debates that took place in the Federal House of the Representatives in the 50s. Did the Yorubas oppose the creation of the Midwest region? Absolutely not. By contrast, while the governments of the East and the North were bent on splitting Western region, how did they respond to the aspirations of the Eastern and Northern Nigerian minorities? My dear brothers and sisters, read the history of Nigeria. Because one knows these things, one simply dismisses some allegations as pathetic display of ignorance. For heaven's sake, were power to be devolved to the states in Nigeria today, will the Yorubas be the only nation to benefit? Shall the Ogoni, the Edo, the Urobo, the Efik, the Igbo, the Tivi, the Mumuye, the Kanuri, will they not benefit from being spared the shackles of an overbearing federal mind? Shall the Tivi, the Hausa, the Fulani, the Juku, the Kanuri, the Baju, that is those of you who know who the Baju are, when you had the name, you had a Badaki, is a Baju. Will they not be better able to marshal local strategies for addressing local problems? Is that not what federalism is about? We, the Yorubas, have never asked for ourselves what we are not willing to grant to others. And I want to recall that the motto of Western Nigeria used to be liberty and justice. Without liberty and justice, any hope for unity is an illusion. A system that tramples liberty and justice underfoot cripples faith in itself. Peace and progress are fleeting mirages in a nation that does not gird its loins with liberty and justice. And so the issue of devolution of power, of greater autonomy for the states, of restructuring is a matter of liberty and justice. The right thing to do is to embrace it. That is my role under the present dispensation, and it is my unchanging role under any dispensation. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope, satisfied your curiosity about my own role. I think it is now time for me to ask and to think out what I think should be your own role as Yorubas and as Nigerians. And so I briefly state 3 areas where your contributions are generally and greatly needed. First of all is the preservation of the Yoruba language. Tabakwi Nigeria sí ọ̀dọ̀ rẹ̀. Àwa Yorùbá a kó ìdákọ̀ọ́nù mẹ́rẹ̀. Àwa Yorùbá àwa ní ẹ̀yà tá a tóbi jù nílẹ̀ èèyàn dúdú. Ní ìlà oòrùn Áfíríkà kò sí ẹ̀yà kankan, kò sí ìlú kankan. Àwọn ìlú bíi Ghana, Togo, Senegal, àdékápá gbogbo wọn pọ̀ ní ìsọ nígbà àwọn ẹ̀yà tó ń gbèdú àwọn yẹn o, àdé àwọn ìlú yẹn Ghana ọ̀tọ̀ Yorùbá. Tàbá pín Yorùbá sí mẹ́ta, nígbà tí mo ṣe gómìnà Ọ̀yọ́ state máa sọ pé àwa Ọ̀yọ́ state àjù Ghana lọ. Kí ni ẹ ṣe yẹn nìkan? Ní gbogbo èèyàn dúdú, nítorí ká rọra fi àwọn ṣàdúríṣàdúró tó ń jẹ́ àwọn íjíbítì, àwọn yẹn àbá íjíbítì ìyẹn, ṣùgbọ́n ó kù South Africa pàápàá, àjù South Africa lọ ní èèyàn, nítorí pé mílíọ̀nù ọgbọ̀n lé mẹ́rin ni àwọn akáàrọ̀ òjìire. Ẹ̀yẹ sọ ìlú kankan tó wà ní gbogbo Áfíríkà tó tó yẹ. Ní gbogbo ayé yìí, àwa Yorùbá ipò kẹsàn-án la wà ní gbogbo ayé pé àwọn tó gbọ́ èdè ara wọn tó jọ sọ èdè kan náà ipò kẹsàn-án la wà ní gbogbo ayé.
All right, thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to G. Bola, the Cicero of Asake, like it was introduced, the Cicero of Africa. And the title of today's session has been G. Bola speaks on the Yoruba place in Nigeria. And somebody said they couldn't hear it clearly. Well, I tried to do everything I could, but I'm sure you got some things from it. And maybe I'll just go over some of the things he said. And if you've been here since the beginning listening, I'm actually glad you are here. Because like I said, it's important to listen to those who have gone ahead of us. I think sometimes it's possible to assume that some of the things that we're saying are new. And I know that if you say to people that, hey, I have ideas that nobody else has thought of, and this is it, and that's not to say that there can't be original ideas, there can be original ideas, but it's also important to acknowledge the fact that there's certain things that we're saying right now that are not, they're not so new. In other words, people have walked this path before, and you want to know what they did, how they did it, and what lessons you can learn. That's how to grow. Okay, and that's the reason we have the sessions where we bring up people like Chibolage, essentially bring them back from the dead. So I'm going to go through some of the things he said. By the way, people like this don't die. Okay, the body may not be here, but the spirit, the ideas are still here with us. And it's quite interesting what it said when he said that when they spoke, or anytime they have conversations in Nigeria, certain people will say they're arrogant. You know, they'll call them, I mean, if you go back to the 1930s and 40s, it's always about arrogance and tribalism. Oh, you guys are arrogant, or you are tribalists. It's not so different from what they call us today. You are bigots and tribalists. There's something that we say in Yoruba. It's from the Bible actually, but I like saying it in Yoruba. In other words, if those who you consider your fathers went through something, you should not be shocked or surprised that you're also subjected to the same thing. Because the way things work in Nigeria is like the dog that hasn't learned any new tricks. Old dogs, right? It's the same idea, it's the same template, it's the same game plan. All right. And you also notice some of the things that is, I'm just going to go over some of those things very quickly. By the way, this speech was delivered in the United States, in Philadelphia, and it was around the year 2000, because he mentioned that at the time, a dollar went for 100 naira. That was around year 2000. So that's been 26 years. And he said some interesting things. He talked about true federalism. They talked about constitutional review. They talked about restructuring. If there's anything I have noticed in our history, and this is one of the reasons I'm very proud as a Yoruba man, if there's anything I've noticed, it's consistency. The methods will change, and they should, but the message is always the same. It's the same thing with Papa Awo. You have an idea, the ideology is constant, the methods will evolve. And that's what I see with this whole restructuring thing. We did not start talking about restructuring in 2026. They've been saying it for a very long time. The people who fought the military to a standstill were your fathers. And that's why in Nigeria today, certain people talk about the fact that the military was the best thing since sliced bread, and you're like, the same military that we grew up in. One of the reasons is because, number one, most of people that came from their places, I mean, to be honest, right, the military work with different people from different ethnic groups, okay? So, regardless of ethnicity, they work with different people. However, certain parts of Nigeria were very vehement about what had to happen, and most of those people happened to be Yoruba people. And the people who went to prison, most of them happened to be Yoruba people, including the person you listen to, Chief Bola and Chief Olufalaye. Bear Koransom Kuti. These were those who went through stuff for us to enjoy what we're enjoying right now. And when they came out of that stuff, that period, and we transitioned into civilian rule, they didn't stop fighting for true federalism because we lost it in 1966. And although, I was going to talk about this on some other day, one of these days I'm going to have a session on it, although Yakubu Gowon reversed the decree number 1 and decree number 34, in reality, we never really saw being a unitary state. And those who have consistently asked for true federalism in Nigeria, they've always been Yoruba. And the funny thing is that in our history as a nation, as a people, Yoruba people, I have not found any example right, of us doing something to hurt other groups just so that we can have something over them. If we ask for restructuring, it's not just for us, it's for everybody. If we ask for state police, and thank God the president is talking about that now, if we ask for state police, it's not just for us, it's for everybody. If we say, oh, let's have fiscal federalism, it's not just for us, it's for everybody. It's just that those who are very, very keen on destabilizing other spaces or subjugating other people, they're the ones who have issues with these things. And it's quite interesting how this has come to be. But and I think that's what we can also learn from our elders. And you're going to say, gira, macron beko, to the one family saying, Chibolagi also mentioned that when it came to state creation back in the day, and we've mentioned this before, we had sessions on this before, that the Yoruba people supported others. And all you have to do is go back and read the Willings Commission report of 1958. The commission sat between 57 and 58. They released a report in all the regions in Nigeria at the time. Three of us, of all the regions, only the Western region made a case for the Midwest to leave the Western region because they've been asking to leave. And the whole idea was that they could sustain themselves, they were viable, and it was okay if they wanted to go, they could leave. No other region. And not only did we support the Midwest creation, right, we also supported other groups financially as well. That would be the UMBC, the United Middle Belt Congress, in the Middle Belt area, of course, and then the movement for the COR, that's Cross River, Ogoja, and River State. In other words, your legacy, or that's the legacy of your fathers, right, is altruism. And this is why I see no reason for you people to be feeling somehow in the Nigerian story. You owe nobody nothing. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't boast and brag about it, but you should know it. What your fathers did and what they are still doing for the most part. So we supported folks back in the day, and it's those who were against, and it's quite funny. I think some people actually like this, Stockholm syndrome, because those who inhibited them from actually getting what they wanted back in the day are their friends, and those who actually supported them are the ones they insult today. It's quite interesting. But to be fair, we also have great people in every region, and I think people remember those things. But generally speaking, nothing has changed much in terms of how people behaved, whether in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or in 2026. By the way, there's something going on Twitter. I posted something yesterday. I know people watching the big bounty. The truth of the matter is that if the game plan is clear, and I'm going to talk about that maybe today or tomorrow. The game plan is clear. What happened is happening, and will happen if nothing is done to stop it from happening. And it's important for people to know, so that we don't become willing tools or unwilling tools, whichever one you like, in the hands of those who really want to manipulate us. So we talked about constitution review. I mentioned that we structured Nigeria, and this was in year 2000. And that was not when they started talking about it. They were at the forefront of everything since the Nadeco days. These people went to prison because of the same democracy everybody enjoys right now. And then people say things like, oh, we want military. If you want military, go and get it in your own region. We never have those days again in Nigeria. Then he mentioned some other things. He talked about, he talked about some problems in our land. And also, if you notice, oh boy, I'm blessed. We are blessed. It's beautiful to be Yoruba. If you notice, whoa, sọ̀rọ̀ bí ìgbà pé ìyapa wà láàrin Yorùbá, pé tó bá wá láti ìlú kan báyìí, ìlú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni àbí ìpínlẹ̀ ẹni kò padà láti lọ túnṣe o. He's talking nationally as a Yoruba nation. He's saying there are issues in education, there are issues in healthcare, there are issues in town planning. He mentioned those three, and then tech. He mentioned education, tech, health, town planning, and Yoruba language. There are issues here. This is what we have to do. So, for instance, he mentioned education and said the schools that they built, the secondary schools they built between 1979 and 1983, are the schools still, I mean, they're the ones that are still there, that the military did not build any new schools, and that the schools, you know, the roofs were being blown off, and that folks in the diaspora should do something about it. He wasn't just talking about the problems, he was telling us what he is telling us what we can do about it. And that's why I don't really enjoy when people talk about Nigeria's problems, because when they are done, that's it. They just talk about it and that's it. It's as if you're having a trauma bonding session. See what's happening, see what's happening, see what's happening, see what's happening. This is bad, this is bad, this does not work, this will not work, and everybody leaves. I don't know how people do that thing, because as far as I'm concerned, I think it leaves a weight on you. You feel heavy. There's no way out, there's no hope. I listened to one this morning. I couldn't stomach it. I'm not going to mention his name. I couldn't stomach it for more than maybe 30 seconds. Just dark clouds. Like they speak, and the only thing that comes out is the negativity. It's not like you should. I'm not saying bury your head in the sand, play the ostrich. I'm saying after identifying the problems, are you capable of proffering solutions? Because any stupid person can identify problems, especially with the way Nigeria problems are. I mean, the ones that everyone talked about, those things are actually very obvious. I mean, they are the real situation. They will not be able to identify it all. But a stupid person can tell that there is no light, and the schools are bad. But what can you do about it? Which is why I always say things about the way we compare Nigeria and the US and the UK. We talk about the systems we enjoy. We don't learn how to build those systems. And yes, we will japa and enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with japaing. There's nothing wrong with staying abroad. I think it's beautiful. It can actually, you can, you know, achieve your dreams and the things that you really want to do. But when it comes to complaining about Nigeria, as long as you're not learning how to replicate what you're seeing there, I don't think you really have that much right to just dump all these things. If you see America, and by the way, you get to New York and then it's actually smelling just like Lagos. But the point I'm trying to make really is that we identify the problems, we see the problems, right? But how do you proffer solutions to those things? And that's what he was talking about. He was saying that, listen, there are certain schools, the primary schools that we have were the ones that were built by Chief Awolowo. I mean, of course, this was the year 2000, so this was 26 years ago. Many schools have been built all over the Southwest by now anyway, so thank God for that. I'm just trying to put it in context. He was saying that the primary schools put up since between 55 and 1959 were the ones that were still there, and the secondary schools between 1979 and 83 were the ones that were still up. The military did not do much. You guys, this is what you can do. If you send $5,000 back home, that'll be 500,000 naira. They'll be able to use it for this and this and that. All right. And for me, I think it's something to appreciate. He also talked about tech. At the time, I was talking about Microsoft. Interestingly, my mentor, you know, one of my mentors who works in the tech space, has actually done everything Bola said about Yoruba language, you know, being made into a software and things like that. And I'm proud of him. I'm very proud. You know, he did it way back. So, but as of 26 years ago, it did not exist. But we have, you know, brilliant minds who have created, you know, some computer language that is Yoruba and things like that. And we have, but of course, we also have more. We have the challenge to build more apps, more relevant stuff in our own day. He also mentioned health. You know, he talked about the fact that our hospitals are bad, and going to hospitals in Nigeria could be like, you know, meeting with the consort of death. And it can be terrible. There are certain hospitals I don't like going. And right now, I just remember something, it'd be like PTSD. Let me tell you, okay, I'll tell you that story some other day. But there are some hospitals I just don't like going. The particular one, I don't like going there because my dad was ill. We had gone there, and man, the kind of while I went through, I never want to be in such spaces again. But then the question is, we can talk about the problems, but if you ever have the opportunity to sit down with those who can actually create solutions, what are you going to say? What are you going to suggest? Those are things we should think about. I'm not saying don't talk about problems, so I'm just saying that don't be like every other person. That's the work of the masses. They can complain. You don't have that luxury. And you may look at me now, or just look at thinking of going, so who knows me? Am I even a politician? Do I have any position? The point is, at the rate you are going, in your life personally, whether in your career, your professional life, your family, at the rate you're going, do you not think that somewhere along the line, could be the next 1 year or 2 or 5 or 10, that it becomes so important to your community that they come to ask you questions? Forget politics for a second. Do you not think that if God answers your prayers and you become everything you're trusting God to become and that you're working towards becoming, do you not think you'll be a voice in the land? Do you think you'll always be one of the people that will just be carrying placard and be shouting, we no go agree you? How do you see yourself? I like to talk to people as if they are there. That's why I'm talking like this. I don't like all those we no go agree, which is okay, but to what end? Yeah, he also mentioned town planning, and Chibalage said, and he's right? He talked about the fact that Yoruba people don't have villages like others in Nigeria. It's true. We don't talk about these things, but I think we should. Yeah, so you're bragging, I don't care. We should, because your father started building towns more than 1,000 years ago. You had towns and cities of 70,000 people more than 700 years ago. It's something to be proud of, right? And you don't have to make yourself small to make people feel comfortable. You are from an urban, you're a city people, essentially. Okay? And you mentioned that Yoruba people are the only ones in the world where the peasants actually live in the towns. Because if you study Europe, and this is understandable, to be honest, you don't even have to go too deep, and I'll explain. Much of what we call Western Europe right now worked the feudal system. And in feudalism, the class distinction is very clear. The aristocrats are here, and then you have the serfs in another part of town. For the most part, you don't have those ones living in the same space as the Oga, all right? And I'm not saying that we have no class system in Yoruba land. It's just that everybody could be close by because we were communal in nature and we didn't have a feudal system, okay? And so he's saying that if you go across Africa, across the world, that Yoruba people had a situation where peasants were able to live in towns. And that's why even today, when I was growing up, I used to hear people say things that they were going to their villages. I never could understand until I went to serve. It was during NYSC, I understood what people meant by going to the village. We didn't have any village to go to. Not that we had no villages that we owned, but so if you want to say village, we would say farm. If you leave maybe Lagos or Ibadan, you want to go home, you say I'm Monlole. If you're in the farm, you say Monlole. Your hometown is not a village, it's a town. God bless you. Someone just wrote it. I think we're thinking at the same thing at the same time. Great minds think alike, I guess. Thank you. We call it we're going to our hometowns. So it's hometown. We don't say we're going to our village, because and he said something interesting. So if you go to, and it's true, if you go to some parts of Nigeria, you see the houses lined up in front by the roadside. Okay? Everybody just does their own, and then you move again inside bush and you find that community somewhere. Yoruba people are not like that. You create a proper city. We call them Ogbon. You have Ogbon. Ogbon means quarters. You have quarters all across the town. And this is not... Go to your hometown, you see what I'm saying right there. You have Ogbon. In each Ogbon, in each quarter, you have compounds, family compounds, right? So that kind of structure that we've always had is something we should work on. And he's saying that, people are not what's the word now? Respecting the idea of town planning and urban development. And I think it's something that we should also learn and, do at your own level. And if you have the opportunity to influence policy, hopefully you help us make things better. Oh, he said something about Akintola. I'll mention those ones later. What again? He said you're right about the largest ethnicity in sub-Saharan Africa as of year 2000 were 34 million people. We've never really had a correct census in this country since before independence, after independence, up until today. So we're hoping that with the next census that President Bola is talking about, we'll be able to have correct figures. Adamush says Lagos, we call it Agbole. No, Agbole is the family compound. So Ogbon or Adubo. You know Ogbon about Adubo, and you now have Agbole. Agbole is the family compound. You know Agbole, you now have different houses belonging to people that are connected, you know, maybe by birth, who are relatives essentially. So yes, Agbole is a family compound. Thank you. All right, and then it says that in the world, when it comes to people who speak the same language and understand themselves, Liverpool are number 9 in the entire world. We should remind ourselves these things. Nigeria is not a reality. In other words, we're not saying, oh, get out of this country, break the place, but while you're here, don't lose yourself. That's the idea, basically. And he said that where he stood at the time, which is where I think people should still stand, is to work towards restructuring Nigeria. Now, one of the things I've learned about, from our fathers, is the fact that some of these ideas might take a while. And they understand how to play this long game. You see with President Tinubu, see how long it took him. Now, you're seeing changes. Now, he sent a message to the National Assembly about state police. You know, the idea basically is it might take a while, but don't say because they thought about it then, we're also thinking about it now. It doesn't really mean anything, Jare. Either maintain the status quo or break everything apart. It might take a while, but I believe that it's the right path to take. And just because it's taking a while doesn't mean it's not good anymore, right? So I'm saying that just in case you're tired and you're like, you know, your work, Jare, it looks like it's working, especially with the structural adjustments, I like to call them that President Tinubu is actually doing to the whole Nigerian, system. So keep up alive. All right. Finally, he mentioned some things that Chief Akintola used to say. Now, of course, everybody knows that Chief Akintola was a fantastic orator. And he had a way with words, particularly Yoruba. Even English language, because he was a lawyer as well. But he had this thing with Yoruba language. You could do some crazy things with Yoruba language. And the very good example he mentioned, two examples I just mentioned, so I can bring people up and then we'll close. He said when they were campaigning, and this was 1964-65, AG had split into two. One group went with the North. That group was what that became an NDP, and they worked with NPC, and they call themselves NNA, Nigerian National Alliance. That's with Akintola and the North NPC. The remnant of Action Group then worked with NCNC and created OPCA. And so he said that when they were going on a campaign trail, Chief Akintola went to SRK. And so his house, that was Chief Bola, and called the place essentially saying that because they were in Opuga, that apparently he had, it's not as funny as he said it, but if you think about it, it's quite funny that he called him Ikechukwu. But the one that was actually quite nice was where he went to Ondo State to campaign, and it's actually something else. The man, SLA. Okay, so here's the thing. If you don't understand the names, the politics of that period, the joke may actually just fly over your head. So let me break it down. The man at the time who was at the center of everything in Ondo State was Adekunle Ajasin. He was the governor of Ondo State. But that was in the 80s, right? So back in the 60s, it was the strong man in Ondo State. What would become Ondo State? So let's call it Ondo Division at the time. So Adekunle Ajasin was like one of the main action group men in that region. Ajasin. SLA had left. AG has formed his own NNDP. On a law campaign. On was a way. Any almost. You value can be so keen. And to recommend some barriers or not. Mobile to my so. Gbogbo ẹni ọmọ òsìn ẹ̀nàwọ́ sókè ọ̀yànàwọ́ ẹni tó mọ́ máa sínú yín kó náwọ́ sókè ọ̀yànàwọ́ ó wá ní ọ̀wọ̀ ni mo ti ń bọ̀ tí mo rí ẹni Ajasin. If you understand Yoruba, you know how crazy funny that is. So it's like double entendre. When you're saying that adjusting as in dog buried that person, that whoever, you know. But adjusting you're talking about actually a person, so it's just something else. Anyway, just to tell you that everybody knew how great an orator Chief Eseli was, and that was a wordsmith, right? So that's the summary I wanted to give us from this speech Chief Bola gave on the Yoruba place in Nigeria. Koboko says Ajasin was also from our town. Yes, thank you for adding that information. Yes, so Owo ni mo ti nbo ti mo re ni Ajasin, eni gbogbo eni o ma sin ko na wo soke Owo ni mo ti nbo ti mo re ni Ajasin. That is, oh boy, that's a huge jibe, but I mean, it's essentially. All right, that being said, we're going to bring one or two people up. You can speak on this, and then we'll call it a day. We'll be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time, and I'd like us to do some things on Awo, or respond to some news before then, or other things that came up. We'll probably get back to Awo's trial, the arrest, tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you got something from that. From time to every week, I should say, every week we'll be listening to different thought leaders to inspire us, to remind us why we're here and what we should be doing, and to also help us, strategize better. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, now let's bring up the two people who have sent their request. They just became okay. We're gonna have this and then call it today. Let's start with Adamus. Good evening.
Yeah, Eka, so Eka Leo. The time. Yeah, I'm still not used to the time. Good job with that. Our phobia got to share, like sometimes a man sound need that from anywhere ju ibi táwọn aṣáájú wa ṣiṣẹ́ dé lọ. Kọ́lọ́run fún wa ní okun agbára àtàwọn nǹkan tó máa mú wa lè tẹ̀síwájú pẹ̀lú iṣẹ́ táwọn bàbá yẹn ṣe. You talking about SLA. My grandmother told me a story about him and his wordplay. Like he was jabbing Papa one time and said, Baba kan wà ń Jẹ̀bú. Ó lóun òun máa máa wó lé Ọ̀wọ̀. Ilé Ọ̀wọ̀ ló fẹ́ máa wó kiri. He's just good like that. From where our forebearers walk up onto and just move forward from there. I greet everybody once again.
Very much, Adamorish. I really do appreciate that, and what he says is actually quite interesting. But yeah, thank you. Hello, Ademola Omoba. Good evening.
Ogabusi, good evening. How you doing? Prof, sorry.
I'm very
Prof,
well.
How you doing, Prof?
Yes, sir.
Ogami, sir. Prof, it was before I was doing.
Yes, sir.
I was doing one Nigeria. You have to forgive me now. I only care about my Yoruba people now. I don't go lie for you, Prof. Last year and this year, has shown me that now only my Yoruba people I did for. Prof, there are some things that are bothering me, and I won't lie to you. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. What are we doing to help our brothers and sisters in Kwara State? Is Kwara State not part of Yoruba land? And also our brothers and sisters in Kogi West that borders Ekiti. I've forgotten what they call those guys. What about them?
Okay.
And there's another thing I want to ask again after done with that.
Okay, thank you. The people you're talking about are the Okun people. I hope you can hear me, Sha, because you're on Shibaka.
Clear.
But the people you're talking about, okay, thank you. So the people you're talking about are the Okun people, and so folks in Kwara. Okay, so let's start by talking a little about Kwara State. Kwara State has 16 local governments, right? 12 of the local governments are Yoruba. So you have well 12 local governments that are essentially Yoruba, and the Yorubaness is not in doubt. Whether you're talking about the folks in Igbomina, in Ugbanwara, Omaran, àwọn Oro, tó fi dé Lọ́fà, Ọ̀fà, all the way to Ilorin, all the way to Jeba. The Yorubaness is not in question. But I think the thing is, the question, let me put it this way, in order to understand, in order to get this, in order to answer this question, we have to understand how they became North or Northerners. And it was all politics, right? It was politics between the Fulani and the British. And that was done long before independence. Was okay lonely, and the folks in Kaba division as well. They were all meant. I mean, there were parts of them that used to be in the west, but they cut into the north. But here's the thing: ethnicity is not dependent on state creation. Okay, so they are still Yoruba, and when the conversation is about cultural thing or traditional whatever, I think it's something to also, go on and talk about them. However, if you listen to Chief Bolage, he kept mentioning 6 states, and there's a context to that. 1999, we had an election, and the Alliance for Democracy won in 6 states of the Southwest: Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti states. So we were controlling those states. So he kept saying Mefefa, and then those 6 states were also they were the original Western region after the removal of the Midwest. That was Western region. But that doesn't mean that we don't do things with folks in Kwara and Kogi, but we can't do things politically with them because of the geopolitical or regional arrangement of Nigeria at this moment. However,
sorry to interject. Okay.
I'm almost done. Just this line. However, if there are politicians in those places that maybe think deeply about the Yoruba heritage and decide to work with politicians in the Southwest, I'm very sure it would be a lot easier. That's number one. Number two, there are also organizations who can bridge that gap, but to be cultural, not political. You get? But if it's politics, so it has to be politicians themselves playing that game. But it can't be governors because of the way Nigeria's structure is. They're in the North Central, we're in Southwest, but we're all Yoruba regardless. And there are even Yoruba people in Edo State and Delta State as well. So, but yeah, you want to say something? Please go on.
Those Yorubas in Delta states, there's not really much we can do for them because they are too in. I'm being serious, my brother. The Shekiri people, for the past how many decades have been saying they want to be part of the Southwest. Same with the Olukumi, but there's nothing we can do for them. They're already inside the
there's something.
South.
No. There's something. So there's something to do for them. To be fair, Yoruba land is contiguous all the way to Warri. There's nothing separating Ondo State, the Yoruba in Ondo State, from the folks in Warri, and that was the argument.
Are you back? Prof. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
It's like I lost you again. Oh.
Okay, give me a second, please. Hello, can you hear me now? Sorry, but I think it's the app, so I'm going to use the other device. Sheng Bomisi.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
I can't hear you. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, am I clear?
Yeah, you are clear. Yes, Prof. You are clear.
Okay, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Apologies to everyone on the platform and across other platforms.
Yeah.
We had some technical issues. It was the app, actually.
Yeah.
So I was saying that there is no division between Yoruba land, between Southwest and folks in Warri, that the land is contiguous. And that during the Willings Commission, what they kept saying was the fact that, they are part of, the Yoruba people before they now were caught into where they are right now. But what I'm saying basically is that whatever we have in mind for folks in Kwara and Kogi, we also have in mind for folks in Ishekiri. And the beautiful thing is that they are the ones who are always saying we are part of you, which is beautiful. Rather than you saying by force, by fire, you are Yoruba.
Definitely, Prof. You see the way the Queries are rejecting some people from the southeast. But the fact that these Ishekiri people keep embracing, look, we are part of the Oduduwa nation, we are part of the Yoruba nation by themselves is very beautiful, but they are too deep into the south. You see what I'm saying? I am more concerned about our brothers that are just in the border of Ekiti here and our brothers in Kwara. You feel me?
Yeah. So I get what you're saying, but it's a political thing. For instance, the challenges that we're having in Ekiti right now in Kwara right now, it's happening because, to be fair, there are other reasons, but one of the reasons that's very easy to see is the fact that they're not part of the security network in Western region, and they can't be unless, of course, they have a governor who says, most of us are Yoruba, we're going to connect with folks there. So it's a political conversation, to be honest. It's not so much what individuals can do, apart from the fact that you want to keep the identity, or what's the word now? You want to keep that fire burning by saying, oh, they are Yoruba, or you are Yoruba, and we agree, we are all Yoruba together. But when it comes to political decisions, only politicians can do it. But you see, one of the good things also is that while you want them to join you, what are you also going to be doing so that by the time maybe anything happens in the future, it becomes easier to so we have to share work now where we are. Let's do something where we are, and then if opportunity comes, maybe it's to create something, maybe it's to have plebiscite or whatever it is. But I know that regardless of what we say, the solution has to be political if it's going to work.
The last thing I wanted to say is this, right? I don't like the fact that a lot of we Yorubas are only focused on Lagos. They are like Ibadan has a lot of potential. Ibadan actually has the potential to be one of the most beautiful cities in the whole of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Abeokuta has the potential as well, but every time Lagos, it's not really. Sorry, the car is passing by.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah. I get so. So here's the thing. Lagos is Lagos. The funny thing is, and this is actually quite interesting, Ibadan used to be the Lagos of the 1950s and 60s into the 70s. Ibadan was the Lagos at the time, but Lagos is now Lagos. And a lot of things happen in Lagos. However, if you also listen to Chief Bola, the conversation was not about a particular city or state. It was about the region. And yes, some people may always be talking about Lagos. But even if you look at the Dawn Commission or the Southwest Development Commission or the Southwest Governors Forum, the conversation is regional. Yoruba people in Nigeria think regionally, not just per town. And contrary to what a lot of people think, Ibadan is one of the fastest growing cities, in the country. I go often. I was born there. I have family there. It's, you know, people go to Ibadan and they say things like, Shepa Lo Sheri. I'm like, what do you think Ibadan was? Ibadan is, I mean,
They
apart
say
from
that
the
because
beach.
because this, a lot of people from other regions always say, "Oh, it's brown roof, is this, is that." They are just dumb. They don't know what they're talking about.
So apart from beach like Okunwa, and then there's a beach, and maybe the concentration of like multinationals, there's really nothing Lagos has over Ibadan. Apart from the beach, of course, the sea, I should say the sea, not even the beach, just as the sea, because a lot of things go around the sea. So you have trade, you have importation, you have entertainment, the beach, and all of those things. Apart from the sea and multinational companies, there's nothing Lagos has over Ibadan. It's not about when you talk about the buildings or talk about estates or you talk about companies or manufacturing companies. A lot of manufacturing companies in Nigeria, actually in your state. And what you people also should know is that the manufacturing corridor of Nigeria is Lagos, Ogun, or your state. That's the corridor. And that's why most of Nigeria's importation coming through Lagos. Now they've opened up the ports, but Lagos will always have more because your raw materials, right, that you want to use to produce, that you're importing, will be used within those. I mean, it's shared among those three states: Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo. Oyo State had almost times 3 the VAT from Southeastern region, twice the Northeastern region VAT. So it's not even potential as such. It's actually real. People are living in Ibadan. People are making bank in Ibadan. And it can get better. I think that's what you're saying. It can get better. And I think, again,
Get a lot better here.
Yeah, you have the place of the government. And I look at the way the governors are doing. They are thinking strategically. I'll give an example. Last year, they had a meeting where they were talking about agriculture. Now, Lagos doesn't have land for agriculture. And it will never make sense for Lagos to begin to use the little land they have for agriculture. So they're saying, okay, what can Lagos do? What can Ogun do? What can Ekiti do? Or Oshun, and Ondo. So they looked at comparative advantage and said, okay, this is what this state should do. This one will concentrate on rice, so will do all of those things. What I am looking forward to right now is the product of those meetings they were having, because agriculture can be funny. People can have a meeting right now. You may not see any result until another 1 or 2 years. So I'm just patiently waiting for the result because they've been having a lot of meetings and talking about it. And I think they are working on it, but would like to see the results. So all of that to say that at the policy level, I think people are thinking regionally. I see with SWDC and with Dawn Commission. And for us as individuals as well, we should think regionally. Enjoy Lagos, invest in Lagos, whatever you want to do in Lagos. But I mean, people should know in West Africa, the place you have day old chicks is Ibadan. People will travel from Kano to Ibadan, but that's the only place. I say this with Ogbenumigba. In Nigeria, the capital of day old chicks in this country is Ibadan. You have Ajana, you have all these farms all over the place. There are people making stupid money, even in Osun State. Some of the chips you eat in Lagos are actually from Osun State. I think those who are into business know exactly how this thing works, and real estate is also booming in other parts. And let's just think regionally, essentially. For instance, they're planning to have a regional rail network. I hope that works out very soon. It should make things easy so people can live in Ibadan or live in Oyo and work in Lagos.
Bob will say regionally from now on. No. I'm still in Nigeria, but
no, we still think so. So here's the thing, and by the way, let me quickly say something. Here's the thing: thinking regionally, and you're right, though. But I want to make it very clear. Thinking regionally does not in any way mean we are saying we are not Nigerians. The truth of the matter is this: if we continue the way we're going and we do it well, we can set the pace for others to follow, not so that we can brag, but so that we can become because our fathers have always been examples in this country. They are the ones that will do something other people will copy, whether it's in education, in healthcare, in entertainment, in infrastructure. It was the Western region before others. So if you do it, or if we do it and succeed, other regions will sit and say, okay, what are these guys doing? How did they do it? And, I was talking to my mentor some months ago, and he told me how a particular region I won't mention had to, this was years ago, they had to send people to Dawn Commission to learn about what they were doing. This was long before the old SWDC, SCDC thing came up. They moved, they came to Western region to ask how exactly, of course, we're not going to say this is everything we're doing, but at least this is how to do it, this is how to do it. I was reading the document on Dawn Commission, for instance. They had a retreat. University lecturers, professors, technocrats had a retreat to brainstorm and come up with a development agenda for Western Nigeria. All I'm saying is that if we do it well, and which is what we're doing, and may God help our leaders and may God help us as well, other regions will see it and copy.
Definitely.
And if all of us do it, if all of us now copy and do it, Nigeria has now become better automatically. And that's how nations
go. Till now, leaders from other regions till now envy Obafemi Awolowo because of the structures he kept in place, especially that educational system, that compulsory free education. Till now, you see what I'm saying? And we need competent people. Like we need people like there are a lot of Yoruba has a lot of people that have potential. Look at this guy now, this Adeshina that was the former chairman of African Development Bank.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Look at this Professor Shibajo. We have people that can think well strategically for our region, to develop our region. But I don't know what we're doing. Our politicians, I feel they're not really doing enough.
They're not doing enough. There's always room for more. And by the way, two things, right? Yes, we should always tell them to do better. And we should, I'll say this again. I always say this because I think the people listening to me are great people. Folks, every one of us should also prepare ourselves. It just might be you tomorrow. What are you going to do different? It just might be you. What are you going to do differently? It might be in local government or in the state or work, or even in your company. What CSR are you going to do that make things better? Just, why we tell them to do something? Because they have to do better, because, oh boy. Think about it, for instance, this whole NEPA nonsense. I'm sorry to say, I live in Nigeria. And you know what that means for electricity. You spend a lot of money to keep things running.
Definitely.
We can do this on state level or regional level, right? Or even local government level or whatever. We just have to do better, right? But I think the beautiful thing is that there's a framework for it. And that for me is something to be proud of. Right, there's a framework that we can just work with, and I'm looking forward to it. But so, guys, if you're interested in any part, let me even say it this way, if there's any part of Nigeria, of Yoruba land, or whatever we're doing in politics or infrastructure, whatever that irks you and makes you very angry, please research it. Maybe you might find a solution for us because we need all the help we can get. But thank you very much for that submission, my brother Demola. Thank you so much. All right. You said there was something else. What was that? Before I read the comments on YouTube.
No, I'm done. No, I'm done.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless you. All right. Mr. Lumidele saw me on YouTube says, I believe that he too was right. I think it was okay. I don't know who you're talking about because you just wrote he too. But thank you very much for your comment. Abidakun Michael, he says, this is Baba. May his killer not rest in peace. Amen. I think that's the sad part of the whole thing, the way it ended. It would have made a fantastic president. He also wanted to be president at the time, but certain people worked against him. Kolon Shanu. But it is well. I hope we do better in our generation, by God's grace. All right. We have to, by the way, we have no other choice. We have to do better. We have more opportunities, more advantages than they did. So hopefully we'll do better. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. I hope you've learned one or two things from the Cicero of Esauke, Cicero of Africa. I like the way he spoke. He had this thing with Yoruba and English language, and his English, there's a way he speaks. Maybe because, of course, he studied Latin before studying law, so it shows. Right, and it's beautiful. All right. Thank you very much for listening to Chief Bola today. We're going to have another session tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. Thanks to those who came up to speak. Thank you very much, Mr. Demola Adamo Risha as well. Thank you very much. Odev Africa says, this is take home for us. It might be one of us tomorrow. What are we going to do differently? Absolutely. You know, sometimes these people speak and you just wonder. I mean, not all of us will be governors or president, but all of us will have opportunities. All of us, every single one of us will have opportunities to make a change. Every one of us. Every one of us. And that opportunity is either you are in it right now or it's coming. But there's no one here under the sound of my voice that will not have an opportunity to do something differently in Nigeria. And the question is, Kilo Mayato, apart from the Oyinbo that we're all speaking, which is good, you know, but you know what I'm saying? Hopefully we'll do better. And another thing I wanted to say before going, the reason I want us to be playing speeches by these elders is that there are people who have vision. Sometimes some of them are lucky, I use that word, some of them are lucky to see their dreams come to pass. Right? Some of them are lucky to experience that which they have longed for and that they've worked for. Some of them are lucky that way. Some of them, their job is not necessarily to see that thing, it's just to be able to cast a vision. I think it's important for us to read books by these men and to listen to them, if not for anything, apart from being, number one, you are inspired by them. Number two, you discover that some of these things that you are thinking of doing, they started those things. You can just plug in and become the fulfillment of their dream. I don't know about you, but you listen to people like Chibolage, and when he was talking about how it was about restructuring, they were going to do everything they could to get it done, but it didn't happen because of the way things went down. Just think about it for a second. Let's assume that there is a structured Nigeria, proper federalism, whether it's on state level or regional level. Somewhere down in your spirit, if you're part of the solution, you feel as though they are happy with you. Let me just put it that way. I don't know how to say it. The point I'm trying to say is, I mean, I know how to say it. I'm looking for the way to break it down. The thing is that there is a chain of succession, right? Okay, we are connected to those who have gone before us. And they did what they could, and then they stopped, and then they had vision for more. And then we've come, we're supposed to do those things and have vision for more. Then our children will come. And then, you know, it's supposed to be like that. That's how nations grow. And if you want to understand it, maybe one of these days we should do a session on Singapore. In the world today, I read a document last week stating the best run countries in the world. Number one is Singapore. But how did that happen? A man came, created a structure with his team, did his best. Now they are building on it, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. That's what we should be doing. But I think that some of us, for some weird reasons, and I should quickly mention this, you want to reinvent the wheel. It's unnecessary. You're wasting time. Just plug and play. We will not have another Awolowo, right? We will not have another Bola, but we'll have you, and you plugging into what they've done will actually get you that kind of status as well. Just like, I mean, it was Odudua, and we had Shogo, and we had Ogun, then we had Awo, right? And then we had Bola, and then we had, you know, Ajasi and the rest of them, Abraham Adesoya, and so on and so forth. And hopefully, very soon, your name will be mentioned as well. May God help us. May we be the fulfillment of the dreams of our fathers. And may Yoruba land benefit from it, and may Nigeria prosper in our day. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. I hope you had a great time. I did. I had a fantastic time. All right. We're going to listen to our anthems now, and then we'll call it a day. We'll meet again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. We're going to continue with our trial, the series, and we'll talk about other things as well. What's happening with the police, the new IG, and other news. Quite interesting development. We'll talk about all of those things tomorrow. Thank you very much for being here. So we're going to have the anthems, and then we'll call it a day. Here's the Nigerian anthem. Please learn the lyrics if you don't know the lyrics, so you can sing along. And we'll play the Yoruba anthem as well. Here's the Nigerian anthem first. Enjoy.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace all battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain. Oh, God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be Iṣẹ́ wa fúnlẹ̀ wá, fún ilẹ̀-èdè wa. Kàgbéga, kàgbéga, kàgbéga fáyé rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé bá ti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ bọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àti òmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ ògbàlódé bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀.
Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wo ni wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Lóyìnbó ní bàjẹ́, Nàìjíríà náà ní bàjẹ́, ilé wa ọ̀nà wo ní bàjẹ́. Nǹkan táwọn aṣáájú gbà lérò, Ọlọ́run á jẹ́ kí ẹ pẹ́ àlà máa mú wá sí ìmúṣẹ. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. See you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. Have a lovely, lovely evening. God bless you. Ó dàárọ̀.